Jamie.
Hello.
How are you?
Better now we have D12 kind of fixed. So,
You do?
so yeah,
Oh,
well,
that's so exciting.
we figured the glitch out. So this course, if anybody asks, courses should be ready by the time you're end of your thing. We still have to run the enrollment files and stuff like that. But the problem we were having for the past 3 or 4 days has been fixed, I hope. So crossing fingers.
Great. Wonderful. I am so happy to hear that. And I'm sure all of the faculty will be happy,
Well, we haven't
once
told
once
them
it
yet.
actually happens.
We haven't told them yet. We're
Yeah,
like, okay, that part's done. Let's just like make sure everything else
I've
goes
got
through.
I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, good.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. No fancy videos or anything in this presentation, so should be good. You can see my slides, right?
Yep.
Excellent. I'm going to let everyone in.
I'm gonna just be in the background because I'm extremely groggy today. So
Okay, yeah, that's no problem. And just to update you, Hannah's getting set up with her computer and everything, and I gave her the manual. She's working on her to-do list. Hey, oh, that's great. Okay, great. Yeah. There's a headset. I don't know if you have one on the other computer, but I plugged one into that one. If you want to grab it, take it over there, then
she
you'll be
has
able
one
to.
in her desk.
Oh, Jamie says you have one in your desk. But yeah, feel free to join us if you want. Okay, great. Now I'm going to let everyone in.
Okay.
Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Got a nice crowd in here. How's everyone doing this wonderful Tuesday morning? Hi, Gail. How are you?
Está bien. Is that correct?
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
Está bien.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah.
Bueno.
Bien. Bueno. Bueno.
You gonna make me use that Spanish I learned this summer, Yvonne?
I don't know. I'm just taking a guess.
All right. Everyone can see my slides, right? We've got a few people coming in, and we will get started in about 1 minute. So if you want to run, oh, well, we are at time. We're at 11:20. So I just want to say welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on what I know is an exceptionally busy Tuesday morning. Let me start the recording here. I think we are rolling. Excellent. So yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And making time in your schedule to come hear more about making your course smart. We're going to be talking about saving time, which I know is a topic that we would all love to hear more about, and how to engage your students using automation tools in D2L. I am Anna Everett. I am an instructional designer in the Office of Online Learning. Some of you may know me as Anna Young. I also want to call attention to our new instructional designer who is in the audience today. She is new to Nashville State as of today. That's Hannah Hurdle. You'll be hearing more from her very soon, but give her a warm welcome to Nashville State. And just so you know that she is also here with us now, and we are so excited to have her. We're going to go ahead and get started, and go right into how can we make our courses smarter. First off, question for all of you, and I would think we're going to have a unanimous vote on this, but who all here, show of hands or put it in the chat, do you wish you had more time in your day, more hours of the day? Yeah, everybody is going to raise their hand for this one, I have a feeling. And yeah, we're all busy. We all would love to have more time, and if we had more time, maybe we would have we would be able to focus more on, the students who are struggling, be able to reach out to them, to show more individual care for each of our students. But with so many hours in the day, that can often be very difficult and very overwhelming for faculty. I know, especially if you're carrying a full course load. So what I want to talk about today is how can we work smarter, not harder. That is going to be the ethos of this entire presentation. And I want to go through a couple of tools in D2L that can help you do that. Primarily intelligent agents, which I love talking about. We'll get into what that is first here in just a moment. But intelligent agents are a super tool for communicating with your students, for streamlining your communications in your course. And I think they're just so fun and exciting to talk about. And often, sadly, really underutilized, I think, by a lot of faculty. So we will get into what those are for those who are not familiar with that tool. And I'll make the case why I think you ought to maybe look into using them or integrating them into your course in some way. And then we'll get into the how. So how to script intelligent agents and how to set up some other automated communications tools that are available to you within D2L. So we'll mainly talk about intelligent agents at some length, but there are also some other things that I'll point out as well that can help automate or systematize your communications better. And then we will also be looking in D2L, and I will take any questions that you might have about intelligent agents or anything else related to automated communications in D2L. So we'll go ahead and get started with what are intelligent agents? What are these intelligent agents that you keep talking about? And essentially what an intelligent agent, or IA for short, if that's a little bit too wordy, is just it's an automated tool that will run a script. It will check for students who meet a particular set of criteria that you will set in your course. That can be, student submits to a Dropbox, post to a discussion, or doesn't submit to a Dropbox, or doesn't post to a discussion. So an intelligent agent can be triggered by either a student's activity in the course or their lack of activity in the course. And then what it will do, once it has identified which students have met or not met that criteria, it will send them an email message that looks like it comes from you. And you will write it, but it isn't necessarily something that you are personally sending individually to students. The tool will identify who it goes to, and it will send that pre-written message that you have created to students. So it'll look like an email that's reaching out saying, hey, I noticed that you didn't turn in this assignment, or I noticed that you haven't been participating in this discussion. And, just a reminder, this is how you can reach out to me for help and what our course policies are. So this is what students see. This is an example of one of those email messages that would go out to students. So this does look like it's coming straight from the professor. You can set it up to say, this is coming from Professor Everett or what have you. And it will go to each individual student, only that individuals. So even though it might identify, say, 9 or 10 students who meet that criteria, each individual student is only seeing a message that is coming straight from the instructor to them. And this is just an example. So addressed to the student, dear, and you can fill in their first name. You can have it, I'll show you how to do that, to have it automatically fill in the first name of the student. I see that you scored less than 70% on the syllabus quiz. Remember, the syllabus is a document that includes all of our course policies and answers frequently asked questions. You can return to the syllabus anytime throughout the semester to remind yourself of what those policies are. And then, maybe have a call to action here where you ask students to, contact you if they have any questions, if they need more time on an assignment, if something is going on. This is a great way to open that a channel for communication. And I like to usually conclude it with, here's my email address, my phone number. You can find me in this office, and just sign off as you would any other email. So this is a great way to add a personal touch to your communications with your students, while also saving you time in terms of identifying who needs extra attention and who is maybe falling behind or needs a gentle nudge from their instructor. And this is what instructors see. And once we get into the tool, you'll see this as well. I have a couple of agents set up here, and this is not visible to students. This is what you see. And you can see the name of your agents. I usually give it a name that describes essentially what it does. So for instance, SA1 draft, not yet submitted. So this goes out to students who have not submitted the SA1 draft or haven't taken the syllabus quiz, haven't read the syllabus, haven't that's kind of a repeat, but also related to taking or not taking the syllabus quiz. In that second column, results of last run, those are the users that have been identified as meeting that criteria. So this is actually hyperlinked inside of the Intelligent Agents tool, so you can see exactly which students were identified as not submitting that essay or not taking that syllabus quiz. And then the final two columns just show you when it was last run, when the tool last checked through the course to see who was not meeting those criteria. And again, you can see in detail which students have did or did not perform the action that you had set or attached to that agent, and then the action that was taken. In all cases, is always going to be an email was sent. So some of the advantages of IAs, and I've kind of circled around this a little bit already, but the great thing about IAs is that you can set them up at the beginning of your course. As soon as your course shell is available to you, you can go ahead and just set it and leave it. So you can set up all of these. If you already know what the due dates for all of your assignments are, you can go ahead and set them to release based on what those due dates are in your course schedule, and then have them run throughout the semester. It's also great because we have reduced redundancy of effort here. So if you find that you're having to send out a lot of the same messaging to a lot of different students, this is a great way to reduce that amount of effort by just crafting one email response that will go to all students who fit into a particular category in terms of their progress. It gives students a sense of personalization, which may sound a little bit contradictory because this is, you know, a pre-scripted, essentially kind of a form letter. But again, this is what can create a starting point for a conversation. That's why I always recommend having a call to action for students to reach out to you, to get in touch with you, and to do whatever it is they need to do to catch up if you are reaching out to students who are falling behind or missing assignments. It's also great for instructor presence, particularly for our online instructors here. We all know, you know, in the online environment, there is a bit of a disconnect between the instructor and the student that can be hard to bridge because we are separated by screens and our students are widely dispersed throughout the area. So one way to communicate that you are a person who cares, who's paying attention to what's happening in the course is using a tool like this. So it's great for giving a sense of instructor presence to your course. And it's great for student motivation because especially if you're reaching out to students saying, hey, you're missing an assignment or you haven't logged into the course in a little while, what's going on? How can I help? It's a great way to motivate students to either, you know, remediate, to turn in that assignment, and to communicate with you or just let you know if there is something that is preventing them from progressing in the course. So, and this is an example on this slide that I wanted to point out. Another example of what a message like this might look like. So I usually leave it pretty generic. So hello, or hello, you know, insert first name here. So again, communicating that you are, you know, monitoring what is going on in the course, even if not directly, even if you're using this automated tool. I couldn't help but notice that you've not yet submitted the final paper draft. Link here directly to where they need to go to turn that in, which was due on August 7th. Just a reminder, it's worth 20% of your grade. Reach out to me if you need help. So that is just a good example of what a scripted intelligent agent message might look like. Jessica also includes a good piece of advice in the chat. If it's your personal shell as opposed to your master shell, you could include your appointment scheduling link if you think that might help. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. If you've set up scheduling in Calendly, you can just drop that link in all of these emails. So students immediately will have kind of a sense of what their next step should be with getting with the instructor. And Yvonne, great question, great follow-up question to that. Can these be created in the master shell? Yes, they can, and they will copy to your section shells. Just keep in mind though, if you have, you know, if you're referencing specific dates, specific due dates or periods of time, you'll want to adjust those for each of the section shells. And each individual instructor, if there are multiple instructors teaching a course, will need to put in their own personal information into that. So it doesn't look like it's just coming from the course lead. IAs, they function using release conditions, which are available elsewhere in D2L. You may have seen these before. You can set these up for assignments. So essentially creating a requirement for students to complete before they're able to complete, say, another assignment or access another module. Same thing with intelligent agents. You'll use release conditions to determine what those criteria are that the student needs to meet in order to receive the message. So the kind of quintessential example here is submission to Dropbox. If they did submit to a Dropbox, maybe it's just a message saying like, hey, thanks for turning in your assignment on time. Great job, keep it up. If they didn't submit to the Dropbox, maybe it's something more to the effect of those messages that we saw previously, saying, hey, I noticed that you haven't turned in your assignment, and here are some reminders about why it is important that you do so, or contact me. So you can set it for any, just about any action or inaction in the course. Assignment Dropbox is just one example, but you've really got a wide variety of options here from this drop-down list. It's great for checking in on students, especially, you know, as we are converting to the 7-week format more widely across the college. Intelligent agents might be a really great way to keep students on pace with the timing of the course. And these don't always have to be punitive also. All of the examples I've given so far are reaching out to students who are falling behind or are not progressing, but you can also set these up to give students praise. So for instance, in the example I have here, hi there, congratulations. It looks like you finished all the content topics in modules 1 through 4. So this speaks to, you know, setting the pace for students and giving students kind of continuous communication as they are moving through the course. So you should be ready to take the midterm exam. So you can set these up to provide praise, and you can also set them up to tell students what they should be doing next and what the expectations for progress are throughout the course. Enforcement of attendance and participation. How do you measure attendance and participation in an online course? Well, it's, you know, through things like, are they active in the discussions? Are they logging in to D2L, into the D2L course? You can also set up intelligent agents to detect and identify students who have not logged into the course for a particular period of time, say, you know, like 7 to 10 days. If, you know, they're in a 7-week course, you're probably hoping that they're going to be logging into the online course, you know, every other day or so. So for prolonged periods of inactivity in D2L can, you know, be a great place to intervene using an intelligent agent, which can be set up to detect those who are not logging in regularly. So you can set it for a specified number of days that a student hasn't logged in, and have a pre-scripted message that will go out to them saying, hey, I just noticed you haven't logged into the course in a little while. Just a reminder, it's really important that you do, if it's a 7-week course especially, and that you're making consistent progress. Yes, Robert, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, you just reminded me of a topic that's a little off topic, but if we put these in our master, are they going to be separate masters for the 7-week versus this 15-week courses? And if they're not separate masters, I'm sorry?
Some of them do. So some of the master shells have a separate 7-week master shell. So it's like MC Webo 7W. I don't know that has been done systematically across the entire college, but you can search in D2L and just see if you have a corresponding 7-week master.
That's been handled by request based on those who have the 15-week masters. And if they want a 7-week master, all they have to do is email online learning, and we create a new shell so they don't have to to mess with that too much, they can coordinate and have a new shell to play with. So yeah.
Yeah, so the answer is not everyone has one, but if you want one, just let us know. Okay, Yvonne also has a great question. Do these only go to D2L email address or can they go to my NSCC email address? The answer is they can only go to a D2L email address. I will show you how to set that up once we get over into D2L, but remember D2L email is a closed system. That's a D2L thing that we can't really work around. So any tools that are within D2L can only go to D2L email. You can't have, say, a message look like it's coming from your NSCC email to students. And additionally, these will not go to students' personal emails. It's only from one D2L email to another. So great question. And I'll show you how to get that set up once we get over into an example here. And this just reiterates a point I made earlier, but it doesn't always have to be corrective or punitive. These messages, they can also offer praise. I mean, the sky is really the limit with intelligent agents. You can set them up to do just about anything. You can set them to identify students who are doing exceptionally well or who, scored above a particular percentage on an assignment, and just send them a message. And it could be kind of short and sweet, like, hey there, just wanted to write a quick note and say great job on test 1, keep up the good work. And I think that these are, I've used messages like this before and to great effect. Students will respond to these. And saying like, oh, thank you so much. And just they can be really excited to just hear some amount of like personal praise directed at them from the instructor, some amount of personal attention. So these are wonderful to also consider. It doesn't always have to be, bad news coming from the instructor. Some general tips for writing an effective IA message: be generic. There's a balance here to be struck between being generic, so it has to be general enough to be directed at just about any student, not anyone in particular. But it also has to have a certain amount of personal touch. So I recommend using I statements when you're composing these, even if you are not, yourself sitting in front of the computer writing an email to X, Y, and Z student. So I would, I usually like to start them off saying like, I couldn't help but notice, or something to that effect, because that just communicates that you are, again, paying attention to what is going on and monitoring, where students are at all times. And also, again, this is all about starting a conversation. Students can reply to these. They can reply to this email and it'll come to your D2L email. So I recommend, inserting yourself there and making it clear that this is the beginning of a conversation between you and the student. It's not just, you didn't do this. It's the beginning of a ongoing conversation. And I just compose it as any kind of normal email, with a greeting and a closer. Always include a call to action. We already talked about that. Just make sure students know what to do next. And sign off with your name, just to make it clear that this is that you are personally attending to this issue and you care about working with the student to resolve it, or if you're offering praise, that this actually is coming from you. Another fun trick you can do with the intelligent agents, you can use strings which will auto-populate with certain student details in the message. There is a list inside of D2L when you set up the IA that'll tell you what all these are, and they're also here on the slide. The main ones that I like to use are, for instance, user first name. If you plug in user first name in curly brackets into your message, and we'll practice this when we get over into the shell, it will populate with the student's first name. So it will look like it is only directed at them, even if the same message has gone to multiple students. So in this example, hello, first name, hello, Anna, comma. And then you can also auto-populate that message with, say if this is a welcome to the course kind of message that's going out in bulk to students, welcome to curly brackets org unit name. And that is going to be the name of the course. Org unit, that's going to be Nashville State Community College. Mary Elizabeth in the chat, what if the student uses a name that is not the first name in Banner? That is a great question and something to consider. If students have a preferred name other than what is in Banner or in D2L, this might not be like the best option because it's only going to use the first name that is used as their identity inside of D2L. So just something to keep in mind if you for instance, have several students who have a preferred name that isn't reflected in their D2L profile. So that's just another way you can add a personal touch to these. And the example I have here on the slide actually isn't even an intelligent agent message. This is a news item. So you can use these strings in other places inside of D2L besides the intelligent agents. You can create a news item that with hello, curly brackets, user first name, or first name rather, and have it auto-populate with the student who is viewing the page with their information. So it looks as if the message is directed specifically just at them. Can we modify individual IA messages for those students? No, you can't because the IA just identifies groups of students who meet a particular criteria, and then it automatically sends the email to them. So that happens without you doing anything. It runs the check, identifies the students, sends the email. So there isn't really an opportunity to go in and like modify the email for individual students before it is sent out. Yeah, Emily, great point. Almost every class that she has taught, at least one student who does not go by their preferred name or their username in D2L. Using their official name in a message is the giveaway that this is automated. Yeah. So there's a delicate dance to here to prevent students from realizing that this is just automated and that it's not coming, directly from you. And if you have a lot of students who have a preferred name as opposed to their official name in D2L, that can be a giveaway. So just keep that in mind. When it comes to maintaining intelligent agents, just a couple of pointers here. Just make sure you maintain consistency between your messaging in the intelligent agents emails and the course. So that has to do with like if due dates change, make sure you update them in the intelligent agents. It's kind of a set it and leave it sort of tool, but you also maybe want to check periodically and just make sure that you have set it correctly the way you would like it to display to students before it goes out, because it can be a little bit awkward if an email goes out to a whole bunch of students, with the wrong due date in it or something like that. So just something to keep in mind. Gail has a good point. You could also use your last name while we're on the topic of the student's last name while we're on the topic of preferred versus D2L names. Yeah, so.
And I wanted to add, like you can inform the students that you may get automated messages from time to time that are synced to actual deadlines or inside the course, just to kind of make sure they're on track. So it's okay to let them know that this is happening too. Robert, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I'm just curious. There's been a couple of mentionings of modifying the due dates. If this thing has macros that can grab a first name, is there capability in there to grab the due date so that I can set the IA to go out, say the day before something's due as a reminder?
I don't think so, because with intelligent agents, you set a start date for the agent to run, check all the students in the course and see who has done or not done the criteria, and an end date for when you want it to stop doing that. So you have to manually input the start and end date for the intelligent agent, and any due date that you reference in the text of your email, that's also something you're doing manually. It's not grabbing it from like the calendar or anything. So there's a little bit of manual effort that has to go into maintaining these. Yeah, good question. Okay, so we are going to close out of these slides and we're going to switch over to D2L, and we're going to actually set up an intelligent agent together so you can actually see what the process looks like. So if you go into a course shell, I have a example training shell pulled up here. Everyone can see my browser, correct? Excellent. The Intelligent Agent tool is located in the Edit Course area in the nav bar, all the way on the left. So you click on Edit Course, and it is down under Communication because Intelligent Agents are considered a communications tool. So you click on Intelligent Agents, and you can see all of the agents that have been set up for this particular course here. Their names, when they were last run, the users they identified, and when they're going to run again. So when you're setting this up for the first time for your course, first thing you'll want to do is go to Settings. And this is where we set up what the email and name looks like when it goes out to a student. So who is this coming from the student's perspective? You want to change the system default. It defaults to this right here, d2lhelp@nscc.edu. And the reply email address is also the help desk. So, so we don't want it to go there. We want it to come to you, the instructor. So set custom values for this course. You can put the name that the emails come from. You can put anything in this box. So, you know, you can be Professor Ever, Professor Naff, Professor Cross, your full name, whatever you prefer. And then for the reply to address for responses, you'll want to put in your A number, followed by @elearn.nscc.edu. And that ensures that if the student replies to your message, which hopefully they will, you know, hopefully they'll read it and take it seriously and, you know, reach out to you, that will come to your D2L mailbox. Yeah, you have a question, Gail?
Yes. Does it have to come to D2L? Can we put our Outlook in there?
No, you cannot put another email address into this box. It has to be your D2L email address, which is your A number, followed by that elearn.nscc.edu.
Okay.
And the reason for that, again, is because D2L is a closed email system. So you can only send emails from a D2L email to another D2L email. You can't
Okay.
send it
We've
outside.
we've tried different ways to try to get those to link together, and D2L does just not make it easy. So sorry.
That's just how the software is. We can't really work around it. And it'll tell you
But
right
you
here
can set up
too.
the forward though, so that you can see it in your Microsoft Outlook, right?
You can set it up to forward to
Okay.
to your personal email address, but I want to caution you with doing that because there have been cases of kind of email getting lost while forwarding from D2L to the personal email address. Also, students aren't able to do that, so they can't say have their D2L email forward to a personal address. And if there's any kind of communication that you try to have between like D2L or a personal email address, there's just that risk of it getting kind of lost in the digital void there. So just be aware of that. And it'll remind you here too, when you're setting this up, what I have highlighted, the email address that agent emails come from cannot be set to your personal address due to how spam filters operate. And it also has to do with, you know, again, D2L being a closed system.
Okay.
Yes, Catherine?
Is there a way to put in a string that would allow for the individual instructors if they vary? For example, if you have this set up for a master shell and then it's going to go to a dozen adjuncts and I'd like them to be able to communicate, but I can't have them all set this up. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, and so if you're wanting it to appear as though the email is coming from the individual professor, no, there isn't like a string you can put in this box that is, you know, like banner teacher or something like that. Each individual instructor, if they're wanting it to look like it's coming from them, they would need to put in their personal information. And if it's going out to different instructors and different section shells, you may just want to point out to them, they'll have to come into settings and set name that the email comes from and the reply to address with their own personal A number. So yeah, unfortunately, there's not that ability to kind of automate the instructor's name as there is with the students.
Is there a generic one that you would recommend leaving in there in case they don't switch it? That wouldn't cause problems?
Yeah, you could put something like English faculty,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
But then what would the
You'd have
email
to
be?
change the email though, because I don't think you would, the course lead probably wouldn't want all of that email coming to them. So
Right.
they would need to come in and put in their A number here so that it's coming to their mailbox.
So I'm just thinking through this, but maybe it would work if I have it embedded in the course and I have them not enabled so that I can show them how to do this, but in order to do it, they'll have to enable them and change that information.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really smart idea, is to disable all of the agents. So if we go back to the agent list, agents are either enabled or disabled. When they're enabled, they're active and they're running on the schedule they've been set on. But you can also bulk check all of these and disable. So that would just turn them all off. It would keep all the settings the same, but it would just it would just prevent it from running until instructors have had the opportunity to go in and add their personal email address. That might be a wise thing to do in case someone forgets. And
Right.
these are running and saying that this is from Catherine when it's really from Gail, say, or something like that.
All right, that's what my plan was. Just wanted to make sure that was a okay idea.
Yes, Dr. Doty.
Yeah, Lita Longwood asked a really good question. I have students in several different D2L sections and all, but I try to keep them separately. And she asked, well, I'll let you read what she asked in chat. Lita Longwood.
Lita Longwood. I got to scroll up a little bit. Sorry, I'm a little bit behind on chat. Will the
the
reply to email?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Will the reply to email from students be sent to the specific course section email inbox? That's a great question. I know it will come to your all mailbox. So if we go over to your mailbox here, email, you've got all messages and it'll show up there, certainly. But I think we would need to test a little bit to see, if it actually is coming from a particular course shell, if you can filter by course shell. But if you go to all messages, and sometimes it defaults to a different shell. So if you're not seeing something, go to all messages, and then you can see any replies from students there.
Well, I try to pull in to the correct course, correct email. But once again, if I have that same student in several courses, that comes a little bit more.
Yeah, well, one way to work around that is to maybe reference what the specific course is in the email message that you compose. So you do have a subject line. So maybe you could have the subject line for all of your emails for one course be English 1010 subject, rest of your subject. That's one way that you can definitely tell which course the student is referencing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, we've got, how can I opt out one student who might be distressed if they are getting notices about due dates which don't apply to them? I think in that case, the best case would be to, just, maybe reach out to that student, tell them, hey, you may be getting some automated messages, but this isn't something that applies to you. I believe it may be possible. So say a student has special access to an assignment Dropbox. I'm wondering, and I'm not sure if it's possible to have that student's particular due date, if they have a different due date, be associated. Yeah, that's something we would have to work out, Karen. It's a bit of a complicated question, but I'd be happy to get with you and test that out and see what we can do. Okay, Gail, you had your hand up for a while. I'm sorry.
I don't even remember, but I was just typing you a message. I got a comm meeting, so I gotta
Oh, okay,
opt out.
yeah, that's fine. Okay,
All
all
right,
right, we'll talk later.
We'll share the recording out
Yeah.
as well. So
please.
Of course, bye, thanks. Mary Elizabeth.
Okay, so I had two questions that I put in the chat. Number one was just looking at your screen right now, you said
Mhm.
something about enabling versus disabling.
Mhm.
how can I tell if something is enabled versus disabled?
So let's click disabled, and you can see there's an X next
Okay.
to them all because they're all disabled now. So that's the way you tell. We'll turn them
So
all back
if
on.
they were all enabled right now, and then let's say I wanted to disable SA1 draft, I would just click on SA1 draft and click disable.
Disable. Yep.
Okay. So question number 2, going back to what Karen said, could you please let everyone know I have a number of access students across my courses, and I would like to use this, but I don't want to do exactly what she said, which is stress them out over
Yeah.
due dates if it doesn't impact them. So I really want to use this. I just want to be sensitive to their issues.
Right. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't think that there is a way when you're setting up an intelligent agent to identify particular students that should be the exception and should not receive the message. But
We can test it out, and we can look into D2L
Yeah.
archives to see if they have any guidance on that specific.
yeah, we'll have to
Thing too.
test out what a possible solution or workaround would be for that. But off the top of my head, I'm not entirely sure what we would do, but I am, after this session is over, I'm going to send around, my slides and the recording, and I can follow up later with all of you and just let you know what we find out about that. Yes,
Thank you.
Emily. Yeah, of
Just
course.
to kind of follow up on that. So would it not, when we go in and we do the accommodations, which it's so much easier now because we can do a lot in one place with them, does that not set that student's due date in their calendar for a different due date?
It does for their calendar, but like we were talking about earlier, those due dates that are maybe set on the assignment Dropbox, and including special access to the Dropbox, don't sync over to the intelligent agents. So you're setting those dates separately from whatever due date is on each assignment. So I was thinking through that, and I was trying to think, well, if they have special access on a different due date, but no, it's not going to affect who is included in the intelligent agent run. But so Jamie and I will get together and try to think through what the best guidance on that might be for those access students. And Jamie, were you going to say something?
Nope, you said it.
Okay, great. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If you have students who are maybe, who this would be distressing to receive, say like you didn't do this or you didn't turn this in on time, or just because they have a different due date than others in the course. That's also something to keep in mind. And I mean, these automation tools, they can be time savers, but they're not perfect is I think the guiding force here. You need to your students, and who you have in your course, and whether this is going to work for them or not. So you need to use your own discretion, if this is going to, identify people by the incorrect name, or if it's going to go out to students who, may be distressed or it not apply to. You just have to use your own discretion when you're developing these.
Maybe use it sparingly at first to kind of gauge students. Once one goes out, get some feedback on some students of like, what do you think about these intelligent agents and how that affected you? So
exactly. Be judicious with your use of intelligent agents, especially if you're just starting out. Don't be like me in this course right here. Don't go create 30 all at once. Maybe start off with 1 or 2 until you get more comfortable using the tool, and that if you see that it's successful with your students. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, but I'll go ahead and walk you through how to create a new agent, just so you all can see what that process looks like for those of you who haven't done this before. So we'll just go ahead and naturally, we're going to click new agent. And first you want to give the agent a name. So just a descriptive name. This is only going to show up to you. So it's something to let you know, what this agent is doing. So say no submission for essay 5. You can also add a description. Again, this is only visible to you if you need a little bit more detail about what this tool is doing. You can set a category that's just purely organizational. You know, if you have some intelligent agents that do one thing and some that do another, that's just to organize it. Status, agent is enabled, that turns it on. And then next you're going to set the scheduling for this agent. So you can set it to only run one time, or you can have it recur or repeat hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, etc. So for the sake of example, we're going to set up a recurring agent. I'm going to make it a, let's say a weekly recurring agent. And let's have it repeat, say every 2 weeks on Monday morning. Monday morning at 8 a.m. So you'll just set what time. This is the time that it's going to run through the class list and see which students have met your criteria, which we're going to set next. And this is where you set your start dates and end dates that we have been talking about. So if this is attached to an assignment that has a particular due date, you're going to want to start it after that due date has elapsed, right? In this case, we can just go ahead and I'm going to set that to today. It's going to default to today. And you can also set an end date if you would like it to stop running on this recurring schedule at a particular point in time. So, you know, say you want it to remind students every 2 weeks, you know, until the end of the semester. So we'll set it to sometime around December 2nd. Next, we're going to get into the criteria for what is going to trigger this intelligent agent to send out an email to students. So first, we got role in class list. This is who in the class list is going to receive this message based on their role. We're going to want that to go to banner student. So only the students in the course. You don't necessarily care about sending this to every librarian or tutor or reviewer you might have in there. And next we have 2 action options that are apart from the release conditions. So those options are login activity and course activity. So login activity is just a measure of, you know, when was the last time the student logged into D2L period? And then the course activity is when was the last time they logged into your course specifically? I don't see a lot of people use the login activity because you're probably not too concerned with whether they're logging into D2L generally. You're probably more concerned with whether they're in your course or not. So you can check that box for course activity, say, and then you have 2 options. You can either, you know, point out to the user, hey, or the student, you haven't logged into this course in, you know, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. Just a reminder, you should be doing that regularly. Or, you know, if they are, you know, just exceptionally engaged and participating regularly, maybe they're logging in every day for the first week, you could be like, hey, great job. You know, it's really great that you're logging in regularly and keeping up. I think the first one's probably going to be more common. And I recommend if you're going to have just one kind of generic intelligent agent set up in your course, you might think about doing this one because it's pretty easy to do. So it's a good kind of starter. I would say for those of you who aren't familiar with this tool, is just set up a course activity monitor that will notify students if they haven't logged in the last 10 days. I would say, you know, if that would be pretty concerning. So maybe that's who we want to reach out to. You can also set release conditions for any intelligent agent. We've talked about these, you know, in passing, but you can easily attach that to the agent by just clicking create. And then you have basically any action in the course you can set as the trigger event or non-event that's going to create or it's going to, you know, trigger the intelligent agent to send the message. So the example we keep coming back to is no submission to Dropbox. So if the student has not submitted to the Dropbox by the start date that the agent is going to run, again, that should be, you know, probably just after the due date has elapsed, you can have an email go out to notify students that that you have noticed that they have not turned in an assignment. So if you go with that, that's probably going to be the most common one, but you have other options here that I would encourage you to explore and play with. No submission to Dropbox. And then you would select which Dropbox. This is 4. We're going to do SA5, Flowers, Middle Tennessee. So this is for students who did not turn in SA5. And you can combine this with this one. I recommend, kind of sticking to just one thing though. For each agent, have each agent just have kind of one condition that's going to trigger it. Don't try to double up because that can get quite complicated pretty quickly. And it just introduces room for error. So I would just decide either have a separate agent if you're wanting to send out a message for course activity, have a separate message or have a separate agent set up if you're wanting to send out a message for students not turning in SA5. So I'm going to turn this one off because we're going to focus on SA5 on this one. And yes, Kirsten Bush, you have a hand up.
Yeah, so when you click the condition type as no submission to Dropbox, that's sufficient for no submission to any folder, or do you actually have to specify each and every folder you want that to apply to?
You do have to specify each and every folder that you want that to apply to. So when you click no submission to Dropbox, I went kind of quickly past this, so my apologies. There will be an additional drop-down menu that appears where you select which Dropbox folder you're talking about. So, we did SA5, but you could select any one of these. Now you can add multiple conditions to an intelligent agent, but what I was just saying, just before that was I don't really recommend doubling up just because that introduces kind of room for error. I recommend having one agent for one condition. You can add more than one condition to an agent, if that makes sense though. So if you want to contact students who have not submitted SA5 and who have not submitted, say, SA6, all conditions must be met. So they must have not submitted to SA5 and not submitted to SA6 to receive this message. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. You can also set it to or. So it can be an and or an or situation. If you go for if you have multiple conditions associated with one agent, you could either have it be like they have to do both of these things or not do both of these things. Or you can have, they can either have missed SA5 or missed SA6. So again, though, just for the sake of simplicity, because that can get a little complicated when you have multiple overlapping conditions, I strongly suggest, especially if you're just starting off, just have one condition for each agent. So I would just stick to SA5 for now and just dedicate this one to SA5 and maybe do the next one for SA6.
And you don't need to set an intelligent agent for each assignment. Look for the major assignments or things that are coming up or deadlines that are close for something that's pressing in the course.
Right, because you don't want to inundate students with messages, especially, if it becomes pretty clear that these are automated messages, they might just start to just ignore them. So really only just for major assignments. So major essays, major projects, those are the ones that I would, it would probably make sense to have some kind of intervention message go out to students. Yeah.
All right, this is meant to really keep the group of students on track as you're progressing through your course. So you can see when these flag and these get sent out, you can see who these been sent out to and then notify these students and interact with them, even though they've had an agent message sent to them. If they haven't submitted something on time or they missed a deadline, just to kind of you can now take that point, the focal point, to engage with those students to make sure they're not falling behind too hard.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. That's how release conditions work. Any further questions about setting up release conditions before we kind of move on to the next stage of this example we're setting up? Jamie's doing a great job. Thank you, Jamie, for keeping up with questions in the chat.
I'm trying.
Yeah, lots of great questions and comments. So So
Hey,
thank you
Elizabeth
so
said, where do
much.
we put in the message? Is that at the box at the top?
We are getting to what we put in the message.
Okay,
So
I want
there's
to make sure I didn't miss it. So, yeah.
several setup steps involved here, but no, we have not gotten there yet. So as a review, what we've determined so far, we've given it a name, we've turned it on, we've determined that we want this agent to run weekly, every 2 weeks, starting today, ending at the end of the semester, Monday at 8 a.m. Only contact students, and only contact students who have not submitted to the Dropbox folder SA5. So there's a lot of it follows a certain logic that I think will become intuitive to you as you work with these. But this is just telling the tool what to do, which students we're going to contact, and now we are going to get into what goes in the email, crucially important, in our last step, which is actions. And the action is always going to be send an email. That's really the only action that is available. So let's say, so you have two options when it comes to repetition of the action or the sending of the email. You can either have it only contact the student once, the group of students once, or you can have it contact them every single time that the agent is evaluated. Again, we don't really want to inundate students with repetitive emails. So if it's something like hasn't submitted to the Dropbox folder, I would just do it once. If it's something recurring, like recurring attendance issues, so if they're not logging into the course, regularly, it might make sense to have a repeated message that goes out every time that student seems to not be logging in. For something related to like an assignment though, I would just do it once. Just so, we're not, telling students kind of the same information over and over. So there are only options in terms of actions to send an email. That's what we'll click. So send an email. Name that the emails come from, which we set up in settings. That's going to be English faculty. So we're using that example, Catherine, of if this was coming from a say like a group of faculty rather than an individual, and then the individual's reply to address. So what this is telling you is when the student receives this email, they're going to see it's coming from English faculty, and here's the reply address. So when they click reply on the email, that's who it's going to go to. Now, this is a little bit tricky, but it's always essentially going to be the same. In the to box, we're going to put one of those auto-populating strings for the student's email address. And what we're going to put in here is, well, let me make sure I get this right. There's a link here. What special email addresses can I use in case you forget? And what you're going to use right here is initiating user. So it's not any particular student. It's whatever student has been identified by the tool. And I'm just going to copy, paste. And you want to use curly brackets around that, initiating user, capital I, capital U, all one word. This will also be in the slides as well that will go out so that you have, this is our special special string that we use for intelligent agents. That's always what's going to go in the to box. Then the subject. Now, Dr. Doty, you asked a good question earlier, how do you want to make sure that you know which class this is coming from? So say this is missing SA5 because that's, what we're addressing here. And let's say this is English 1010. You could just put that in the subject line. And you could maybe even do that for all of your intelligent agents for this course, so you know which course this is for. And then you're going to write your message, finally, at long last. So, hello. And you can put in user, first name. We're using camel case here. So that's where we use a capital letter, lowercase, capital letter, lowercase for each word, all one word, user first name in curly brackets. That's going to auto-populate with the student's first name as it appears in D2L. We've already talked about some caveats with using that. And start with an I statement. I noticed that you have not yet turned in SA5. And at this point, what I love to do, just to simplify and clarify, what specifically I'm referencing, is I like to use insert quick links to link students directly to what I'm talking about. You can do that with insert quick link here in the toolbar. And then you can link them to anywhere else in the course. So we're talking about an assignment Dropbox. Let's find that Dropbox we're talking about, SA5. And this way, when the student gets the email, if they're like, SA5, what is that? They could just click on this and it'll take them straight to the Dropbox. And then they can see, oh, I didn't turn that in, or what have you. But sometimes it's that students don't necessarily know too much about D2L, or they don't know how to navigate the interface, and maybe they just missed something. So quick links are a great way to direct them straight to where they need to go, and what they need to do. And we've already seen several examples. You can, add in, your contact information, an encouraging message. I really encourage using a positive and optimistic tone in these, even if you're asking students to turn in assignments, like, offering help, saying, please let me know if you need additional time, if you're open to doing that, just let me know how I can help. And then you'll just sign off with, say, like, sincerely, Professor E. And so this is the email that students will receive when they meet the criteria of not turning in SA5. You also have the option to record video, or upload a video file if you would like to send a video to them. So that is also an option, just so you're aware, but usually just a standard email is fine. And then save and close. And we now have a new agent here in the list, no submission for SA5. It has not run yet because it's going to run in 2 weeks on Monday. And it tells you right here, the next run, the next time it's going to go through the class list and see who meets this criteria, is going to be Monday, August 22nd at 8 a.m. And only then will we have some users identified and emails going out. Any questions about anything related to intelligent agents? Great. All right. So in our last remaining minute, yes, Lori.
I'm sorry, Anna, I couldn't get my hand up fast enough. Would it be too much to ask for a really quick example, just of the bottom part of setting up how to activate when a certain grade or range of grades has been met or not?
Yeah. Thank you so much for reminding me of that. I totally kind of flew past that. But yes, Lori has a great point here. You can set up an intelligent agent that will be activated by a student grade, reaching a particular threshold or not. So I'll just make a new one and we'll just scroll down to that release conditions box, create. Now let's say it's a quiz and you want to notify students who, say, score a particular score on a quiz. So you would click score on a quiz, select the quiz, let's say the orange juice quiz, and you can set it to be any one of these mathematical operators. So it could be either greater than or equal to, less than or equal to any particular grade. So let's say we want to, give a big congratulations to anyone who scores greater than or equal to 90%. So they made an A. So we'll just send them a message saying, congratulations, good job, keep it up. You're doing really great. Or you could do the inverse and do less than or equal to, say like 60%. So you're reaching out to students who are maybe struggling on that exam. But thank you, Lori, for reminding me of that, because that I think is a really useful tool that probably gets used a lot with the agents. Yeah, you're welcome. And just so everyone knows, we are currently at time. I did have a couple of other slides that I would love to share with you all if you are interested in terms of automating other aspects of your course. Just turns out we had a whole lot of interest in just the intelligent agents, but I want to be respectful of your time. So if you need to go, please feel free. And those of you who are able to stay, I'd be happy to go through, a couple of other tips and tricks if you're interested in those, and also answer any lingering questions you might have. So the last in my last few moments here, you know, as we have a few exiting, I'll just point out that, you know, there are some other ways that you can automate your course, save yourself some time. You can schedule news posts in advance. I don't know if everyone necessarily knows that, but you when you set up a news post, you similarly to the agents, you can set a start and an end date for those news items. And if you're setting up your course for the beginning of the semester, you can go ahead, and if you know what all your weekly news items or routine communications are going to be, you can go ahead and, you know, set up the start date for a time in the future. So it will release in the future. If you look at your news items in D2L, those will be listed as scheduled. And so, for instance, on the slide here, I have one that's not going to release until November 1st. And it's already all set up and ready to release to students in advance. So that's one way, you know, if you're working ahead and, you know, you want to save some time because you know the semester is going to get crazy later on, you can do that. Another way to streamline communications with students is to have them set up some additional communications outside of D2L. So D2L, you know, the email is a closed system, but there is some ways for them to get notifications outside of D2L. They can enable SMS notifications, which will come to their text messages. It's very easy for them to do. You would just direct them to click on their profile picture inside of D2L and then click on notifications. There's an option to add their mobile number and then select what they would want to be notified about. So if there's a new news item, they would get a text message saying, hey, there's a new news item in the course. You should go check and see. So this is, you know, this is a great way to reach students even outside of D2L and just ensure that they are being notified of anything new that's happening in the course. And then finally, an additional measure that students might take, you know, just to stay on top of any communications in the course is to download Brightspace Pulse. They can download this onto their phone. And this will notify them of calendar events, so any upcoming due dates, any news posts that have been made in the course. And then I think also if there are any new grade items that have been recently returned, they would be notified using push notifications on their phone through this app. So those are two things that students need to set up on their own. They have to set up their own SMS messages naturally, and they have to download Brightspace Pulse onto their own phone. And Robin, great question in the chat. Is there any way to see if students have set up notifications for themselves? No, there isn't. You kind of just have to trust that they have done it. But I've heard of instructors who have offered like maybe a few points of extra credit if they show that they have, you know, if they send you a screenshot of their phones showing that they downloaded the Brightspace Pulse app. So other than that, there isn't like a way to automatically see who has or who has not set this up unless they just tell you that they have. Yeah, but that is all I have. I am ready if you have any further questions. I'd be happy to take those. If anything you want to see in D2L or demoed in D2L, we can jump over into the browser and work on that if you would like. But otherwise, thank you so much for attending today and for all of your wonderful questions and comments. And we will be sending out, again, the slides and the recording as a follow-up after this so that you have all of this information as a reference. But again, thank you all and hope you all have a great rest of your day. Stop the recording here.